A great morning upon us. I feel like a lot happened. I was away from you last week out in Houston for a short course in a summer intensive there. Colby spoke for us last week talking about Paul's path to peace. Thank you, Colby. It was fantastic. We tuned in from a distance. You got yourself in trouble because the people are demanding an encore. And that means that I'll be calling on you again probably sooner than you want me to. Thank you for blessing us all. Everyone else seems to have gone a little bit crazy in the time while I was away, actually. There are riots going on in our country right now, causing us a lot of stress. The biggest breakup since Shaq and Kobe, since Brady and Bill. Trump and Elon happened while I was away too. Everybody's a little bit worked up about that as well. There's a conflict raging between Israel and Iran, and that escalated really quickly. And yet today we are here in the presence of our Father, who knows all, controls all, sees all. And today we get to celebrate our earthly fathers along with our Heavenly Father. Donuts with dads was a hit, I take it. Did we like that today, guys? Dads, fans? I mean, we don't have to do anything for y'all. We can just, don't even let them pick where to eat if they don't like the donuts. Hopefully you get to do that at least today, Dad. It's a way that we can say that we love you. We're not quite done with you, but I'm going to save that for later. I'm not going to spoil it. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. Right now, we got to get back into the Gospel of Matthew, the Gospel of the Kingdom. And I want to refresh our memory just a little bit. Jesus has been forcefully pushing and pulling his disciples into uncomfortable territory on all fronts. From the very beginning, he's been preaching a kingdom that looks different from what they anticipated, what they look forward to, what they want to be a part of, and different from what we expect as well. A kingdom made of outsiders and the marginalized. A kingdom that is made of people without influence and means. He's been saying and walking out again and again, blessed are the poor in spirit, and he's been living in sharp contrast to the religious climate of the day and of our day as well. He's dragged them into Gentile lands. He's made them touch Gentile hands, and the disciples, blessed as they are trying desperately, figuratively and literally at times to keep their heads above water. The truth is they want this kingdom. They want to be a part of this kingdom, but there's a tension between what the kingdom looks like and how God achieves it and what they are expecting. Most recently came into sharp contention with the Pharisees and the scribes, and he had to dress down Peter in public because nobody can quite grasp exactly how God actually wins. And now Jesus has been transfigured, and on the descent, he's making his way towards Jerusalem, and everything is about to reach its climax. And surely the disciples at this point have seen enough. They understand fully, and they're ready for what awaits them, the cup before Jesus, as it were. Surely they've gotten the picture. You know, sometimes in life, you're having a conversation or you're engaged with someone in a specific way, and you think that you're on the same page. And you're confident in that assertion, and they seem to be rocking with you, but then they ask a question that reveals to you, this is not what I thought it was. And they ask a question that reveals exactly what they care about the most, and as it turns out, they don't care about what you thought they cared about, and they don't care about what you think about. You know, those questions reveal what they get defensive about. You can always tell where someone is by what they argue about. See, what someone is willing to argue about will tell you everything about what's underneath the hood of their hearts. It's a good rule of thumb that whatever is in your life at this point in time that you will argue about, that you will not tolerate someone else's criticism of, and that you will not criticize yourself is something that you worship. And I want you to think about that deeply this morning, because what we read here in Matthew 18 appears just to be another bad moment for the disciples that we get to look at in our historical snobbery and scoff. But I want to tell you that it's not just a bad moment for them. It certainly is that, but we need to pay attention because we live this out as well even today. And in order to escape the trap that they fall into when they ask this bad question, as it were, we're going to need to bring out the child in you. That's right. In the kingdom, you have to grow down to grow up. It takes a little bit of that stuff that Benjamin Button was made of to see yourself in the kingdom. And we need a little bit of that today. It takes a paradoxical living, maturing into children, because Jesus' kingdom, as he's been preaching and living from the beginning, is an upside down one where the least of these are the greatest of these. So let's take a look at our text one more time this morning. It's chapter 18. It says, at that time the disciples came to Jesus saying, who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? They're arguing amongst themselves. In the other synoptic gospels, they're arguing between them, which of us is the greatest? And some of them on some other occasions even bring some of their parental units into the picture to try and get preferential special treatment. That's a story for another time. But they come to Jesus with this question that reveals everything about where their hearts and their heads actually are. Even after all of this, even after Jesus would say to Peter, very publicly excoriating him, your mind is not on the things of heaven, but the things of man. Here they come saying, who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? And Jesus says to them, truly I say to you, unless you turn, it's the same concept as repentance in the New Testament, unless you turn from this way of thinking, unless your hearts turn and change, and you become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. This doesn't say, hey, unless you become like little children, you're going to get less reward in the kingdom of heaven. Your mansion over the hilltop is just going to be a homely little cottage, but be happy because you're in heaven. He's not saying that you'll get there later than somebody else. He says, if you do not turn from this way of thinking, this way of seeing the world, and become like little children, you will not get in at all. This is serious business. And this is what Jesus says to him. And so one of the things we need to talk about here, especially as we've talked about it during our study of Matthew, is the value and the importance and the necessity of asking the right questions. We set out with the intent every week to come and ask the hard questions, the real questions in our studies. We know that God's not afraid of our questions and that asking them is the only way to grow. But we transfix that truth against something that a lot of our teachers told us when we were growing up in school, but they didn't really mean. I mean, they intended it with the best of their hearts and their minds, but they used to say something like, the only stupid question, how's it finish? Is the one you don't ask. And they really meant it, but they didn't know I was sitting in their class. The only stupid question is the one that you don't ask. And they said it and they meant it until I piped up and said something and they looked at me like I was from another planet, and now they got to figure out how to get the class back on track. Because we've all been in that situation. Some teachers can hide it. Some teachers wear their emotions on their sleeves and they immediately regret telling their class there's no stupid questions because they know they're getting stupid questions from here until school lets out. Teachers, school is out now. You guys can breathe easy. No more stupid questions, but I might ask some just to keep you sharp. Is that fair? Okay, here we go. Here's the thing about bad questions. Bad questions always reveal misplaced ambitions. And when Jesus receives this bad question from the disciples, he doesn't react like I would react, which is making a face that would immediately let somebody know that they're probably not going to like what I'm about to say, and at the very least, that I'm not on the same page with them. He doesn't take the question at its face value because he understands the misplaced ambitions and assumptions that are under the question. He knows what they're actually asking, and it's not what it seems to be on the surface. Do you know, church, that when you talk to God, you can't hide from God? Do you know that? You know, that's one of the stupidest things we do when we pray. It's one of the silliest things we do when we approach the throne of grace. See, when you ask another person a question, you can hide your ambitions behind your language. And we think we are slick. I want to help the dads and the husbands and the boyfriends and the future boyfriends with a little bit of something. If you haven't figured it out yet, I'm assuming that most of the dads have because you have happy families. This is how you get there. For those of y'all who usually in Bible hour tuck this away for about 7 years, come back to it. When your girlfriend or your wife asks you, do you want some ice cream? She's not actually asking you if you want some ice cream. That's not really the question. The ambition underneath of the question is, hey, I want some ice cream. Will you eat it with me so I don't feel like a slob? So if she says to you, do you want some ice cream? You're like, nah, I'm straight. Be prepared for the indignation and the offense that is going to happen because she asked you a question, but that wasn't the real question. See, when you get into a real relationship, you got to be able to do what Jesus does and sometimes use powers of observation that don't come naturally to us men. So give us a break. We need you to tell us straight. I need you in this carbohydrate coma with me. Please, honey, take me to Baskin-Robbins. I need all 32,000 flavors that they have, you and me together, or I won't be able to enjoy it. Please help us out, ladies. That's really what we need. Is that fair? I'm trying to make it easy. Okay, that's the first amen I ever got from this section. You know I'm preaching the truth today. Here we go. My point is, we do this all the time. And we do it with people, But when we do it with God, he knows what you really mean. He knows what's underneath the question. He knows what we really want. In fact, here's the thing about God. He knows more about the reality underneath your question than you do, because the scripture says that your heart is deceitful. Who can know it? Not me and not you, but God knows it. So when we ask God a question, he knows what is really going on. It's why when you ask God for something temporal, like you ask God for a new job, maybe, not bad in and of itself. Or maybe you ask God for the guy or the girl that will make everything better. Or you ask God to help you with this situation in your life that you've pinned everything to. You're actually not asking him for the new job. God knows that you might be asking him to co-sign the idolatry that you've set in your heart, because you've told yourself, if I have the new job, my life will be fulfilled. And he knows the job's not going to fulfill you because only he can fulfill you. And he might not answer your question or your plea or your cry with a yes, because he knew the question you were actually asking. He knows if you say, if I could just get the husband, if I could just get the wife or the boyfriend or the girlfriend, that you're not really asking for companionship. You're asking for something that you think will complete you and make your life matter, that you think will validate you, that you think will give your life meaning. And if he gives you that, he's submitting and endorsing and co-signing the idolatry that you have in your heart. See, we can't hide from God when we come to him with a question. God knows what you're really asking, and he knows why you're asking, and he knows exactly what will happen if you get the answer that you want. And thank God that he does, because there are so many times that the answer that we think we want is not the answer that we need. And so on this occasion, Jesus has to redirect the disciples. And on every occasion, I believe, he needs to redirect and adjust us. So the next time you talk to God, remember, you can't hide your true intentions and ambitions from him. He knows. I'm just saying, next time you pray to God, don't bother pretending that you're not mad. Don't do what you say to people. Are you mad? I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. If you say to God, I'm not mad at them, I'm disappointed, and he knows you're mad, how do you think that's going to go? Just be honest with him. Who do we think we're fooling, baby? Really? Jesus knows. The next time you ask God for something, before you do, here's how you get in a posture that will help you get to the place that God needs to get you to. You take the example of David in the Psalms, and you pray first, God, search my heart and try me. Reveal to me if there is any iniquity in me. I don't want to just ask you for something. I don't want you to just give it to me. I want you to reveal to me what my true ambitions and intentions are. I want you to show me the me that I'm hiding from the people around me. I want you to show me the me that I can't see. And you'll be open not only to the answer that he gives you, but you'll be open to him showing you exactly why he gives you that answer. Now, on this occasion, Jesus does this with a bad question. He doesn't react. He doesn't even answer the question at all. All he does when he gets this question that is out of pocket is he redirects the disciples' attention. And he redirects their attention to the underlying issue, which is actually the thing that causes the argument and the question. And he does this because he knows you can only get the right answers by asking the right questions. So let's look at their question for a second here. They say, who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? Ask yourself, church, what are they actually asking here? What are they actually saying? It seems simple enough on its face. We want to boil this down to like a Bible class surface level and just say, well, they're asking which of them is like the best disciple. Like, who's gonna be the one that gets to sit at his right hand? They come with this question at another occasion. Like, they come and they want to know who's really gonna be running things. Which of us has proved ourselves to be faithful? Which of us is gonna get the accolades and the affirmation and the recommendation from you? It seems easy enough, but on the other hand, the reality is the more things change, the more people stay the same. And I think we're just like them because there's more to their question than is on the surface. I need to call us back to who this group is. Remember when we first started talking about who Jesus called to be disciples, we talked about all the different places and backgrounds and ideologies that they came from. You see, among the 12, not to mention the 70 or the 120 or the mass that is following him at this point after the feedings and the healings and all these miracles, among them are every single influential ideology of the day, every demographic and every politic at the time. I just want you to imagine what it would be like for a traveling group of Democrats and Republicans and libertarians and off-the-grid free men in the land all hanging out together, pretending that they're on the same page. How many arguments do you think would happen over the campfire? What do you think the substance and the source of their conversations would be? I could tell you what it looks like. Just open up your Facebook. That'll show you real quick, everybody. So these guys are coming with all these different ideas, especially as it pertains to how God gets things done, how to deal with Rome, what their responsibility in the world and the kingdom is, and how it's all going to look when everything is said and done. They come from groups that not only disagree with each other about how they see and interpret and inhabit this world that God has made, but they come from groups that, because they have different opinions about this, don't really like each other. Because just like us, they struggle with putting their identity into their ideology. I'm gonna say that one more time. Just like us, these groups of men, these Judeans struggle with putting their identity into their ideology. It's a trap we cannot afford to fall into. So when they're arguing about who is the greatest, on the surface, they're just flexing personally, but underneath, they are saying, the way I see things is superior to the way you see things. They are saying, I've got this thing figured out. My worldview is right. My politic is right, and yours is wrong. My understanding is right, and you just don't have it. You don't believe me? Let's go right to Jesus and talk about it. Do you think we do this today? My worldview is right. My perspective is right. My way of looking at this is right, and yours is wrong. You don't believe me? Let me go ahead and proof text a book, chapter, and verse to show you what I'm talking about. You don't think we still do this today? This is where the disciples are at this moment. This is what they're saying. So they come to Jesus, and if you don't believe me that we're still coming to Jesus like this, that we still have these misplaced assumptions and ambitions, then I don't think we're really paying attention. I give you permission to open up your phone right now. Don't send me the word crumbs. We already did that. But open up your phone and just scroll for a second and see if you can't find people shouting, I'm the greatest. No, I'm the greatest. No, I'm the greatest. No, this is the greatest. This is the way. This is how you do it. You take about 3 seconds, you'll see all the arguments, squabbles, accusations, underneath of which just amount to the same question that they're bringing to Jesus. I'm the greatest. I know what I'm talking about. I know how this thing goes down. I got it figured out. And you are basically an idiot. Let's ask Jesus what he thinks. What else do you think is underneath our political tirades on social media? What else do you think is underneath our church posturing? What else do you think is underneath all the headlines where it says, you won't believe what so-and-so said? Or they don't want you to know, yada, yada, yada. This particular group and ideology doesn't want you to know the truth. What do you think is underneath of that? What do you think is underneath of, this is the best church to go to, or this church has the best this, and this church has the best that? What do you think is underneath of that? You see, I want to submit to you that Jesus sees underneath of their questions and their arguments and their petty squabbles, but he sees underneath of our arguments and our petty squabbles too. He sees underneath the question. He knows what they're really asking. And understanding this situation from this perspective makes what he tells them so much more important to us. Because Jesus is perceiving that the problem right now that they have isn't just that their ideas are not correct. You might think that Jesus might say, well, let me tell you why Peter has this figured out better than James does. And let me tell you why Bartholomew has a handle on this, but you don't have a handle on this. No. Jesus doesn't do any of that. He sees that the problem is not that they have wrong ideas, because they all have wrong ideas. It's clear that none of them understand yet what they're a part of, what's about to happen and what it means. They think they do, but they don't. So Jesus talks to the real problem underneath their question, and that is actually how they see the world. Their entire paradigm is skewed. It's how they see the world and how they see themselves in relation to the world. And so Jesus says this. He calls to him a child. Jesus didn't have Bible hour on this occasion anyway. He said, it's done for the summer. Bring me one of the kids. He put him in the midst of him and he said, truly I say to you, unless you turn and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Again, this is serious. It's not that you get in with less or you get in later. You don't get in at all. So let's read one more time, verses 2-6. He says, truly I say to you, unless you turn and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom. Whoever humbles himself like this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Whoever receives one such child in my name receives me. But whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be greater for him to have a millstone fastened around his neck and be drowned in the depth of the sea. I don't have a lot of time to get into the back part of that passage today, and we might do it next week. I haven't decided yet. But the reality becomes, if you don't turn and become like little children, you will keep having these arguments, and these arguments will keep little children from coming to me. And I want you to know, no matter how right you think you are, if your arguments keep little children from being able to come to me, it would be better that you were having a millstone cast around your neck and thrown into the sea. It's not about whether you're getting in or not. It's about your end is far worse than if you decided not to argue about this at all. Listen, I know what you're thinking on a subconscious level, or at least what I think on a subconscious level. I look at this exchange along with the others we see in the Gospels, and I'm a little bit perplexed because Jesus is telling them to become childlike. Yet, if I'm being honest, I can't think of anything more like a child than arguing about who's the best, who's the greatest. Like posturing and pushing. The playgrounds are filled with this daily. How do you think our obsession with sports banter grows up? We stay arguing about who's the best. All I got to do to get people really mad and yelling at me and probably firing me is suggest that the color of these pews are Texas A&M, and I feel very divided because we got a UT stage and Texas A&M pews. I don't know what to do with that, and some of y'all are going whoop, and some of y'all are throwing horns, and some of y'all are putting them down, and I'm going to get out that back door real fast when I'm done preaching today now, okay? We stay arguing about who's the best, obsession over who's your goat. Who's the best in this? Who's the best in that? All superlatives throughout our entire life. Here's the thing. That's all child's play. And the whole argument they're having, we intellectually know to be better than this. But deep down, we have this thing that makes us want to be the greatest. Don't we? We just want to be the best at something. Like, even if it's not what everyone else is the best at, I want to be the best at something. It's like maybe I'm the best at rambling on a Sunday. I don't know if I can't be the best hooper or artist or accountant, or can I be the best at something, God, something that I can put my name by? So my question for Jesus is, how could this be what Jesus is asking us to be, especially when it seems that the disciples are already involved in child's play? And I want to draw our attention to an important distinction on which this entire teaching rests. It's maybe something that you already know, but haven't considered. And it's subtle, but it makes all the difference in the world. And it's this. Jesus is calling us to understand that there is a difference between being childish and being childlike. There is a difference between being childish and being childlike. Let's talk about this for a second. The Greek word that is used here for childlike, it's defined and implies a smallness, a dependence, a vulnerability, not necessarily an innocence, right? It's not saying to us, please go back to the time where you never did anything wrong. It's saying, please go back to the time where you were small in this big picture. Please go back to the time where you were dependent in this big picture. Please go back to the time when you were vulnerable in a world that was dangerous. You see, in Jewish culture, children were dependent members of the household. They didn't have rights like we understand rights in the Western world today. It was a very different communal setup. And so they were seen as marginal, vulnerable, and in some cases, children were even expendable. And so Jesus, putting a child at the center of the kingdom and saying, if you don't be like this, you're not getting in, is just as scandalous as Matthew starting his gospel with all of the unsavory characters in chapter 1. This kingdom is not about climbing ladders of significance. Jesus is saying the only way to be significant in the kingdom is to humble yourself and to lower yourself. He's bringing the reprioritization of being the least of these, the marginalized, the outsiders. Here in this moment, Jesus is actually doubling down, and he goes beyond just saying you should care for the marginalized. He is saying you should be the marginalized. Here's the distinction. To be childish is identified by the following characteristics. First way to be childish is to be self-centered. Even asking the question, who is the greatest, reveals childishness and self-centeredness. Do you look into your heart at this moment and recognize any moments of self-centeredness? Is somebody sitting a little bit close to you in your pew today? Or maybe you didn't get to sit in your normal seat today. Silly example, but church folk love to be a little self-centered with our assigned seats. Because it's about me, baby. What about entitlement? Entitlement isn't something associated with childishness. And little kids, like bad little kids, just expect that stuff is going to be done for them. It's just part of their makeup. They don't even think about it. There's an entitlement. And if it's not done for them, we're going to throw a temper tantrum. Has anyone experienced a temper tantrum already yet today? Is anybody fixing to throw a temper tantrum here in a little bit? What about the fragility we have to correction? That's childish. Do you remember when you were a kid and you were getting in trouble? And look, every mom, since we can't leave y'all out on Father's Day, has a look to them. Yeah. And usually the look can be attached to an unhinged statement that lets you know your life is in jeopardy. But moms that are good at the look don't even have to say anything. And some of us, childish goody two-shoes, all we had to do was get the look, and we wouldn't just stop what we were doing. We might actually start crying right there. Because you already know what is coming. There's a fragility to correction. As soon as someone raises their voice, even if the kid is yelling at the top of his lungs, as soon as someone matches their energy, we're going to cry. Now we're the victim. Now y'all will laugh because this is how kids operate, but you know somebody in your life that's like that too. They will be yelling at you at the top of their lungs and then have the audacity to say to you, don't raise your voice at me. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just trying to speak to you the way you're speaking to me. It's childish. What about the need to be seen as special? If a kid doesn't feel special anymore, it's liable to be a problem. They're going to act out. You know, I was a perfect kid by all accounts until the age of 4. When I turned 4 in October of 1990, things were great, perfect. Mischievous, sure. Afro puff, way too cute to be mad at. I was perfect. It was great. But then thing 1 and thing 2 were born on December 6th. And I wasn't special anymore. And not only was I not special, they were girls. I was really not special. And not only was I really not special, they were twins. I was doubly not special. Guess when Marcus started to get in trouble at school? At 4, as soon as he started going to school. Right. It's because I wasn't special anymore. How offended are you when you don't feel like you're being treated special like somebody else? What is it about a child when they see another child getting attention that they immediately have to respond negatively to that? Do you experience that in your workplace? Do you experience that in church? Do you experience that in your own house? That's what being childish is like. It's posturing, it's constant arguing and being special and looking to be entitled to things that are supposed to come with. It's when James and John come to Jesus with their mom saying, hey, we want to sit in your right and your left hand. And Jesus is like, you don't know what you're asking for. That's not for me to decide. They feel like they're entitled to this because they're in the inner circle. But to be childlike is different. Childlike doesn't mean self-interest. It means radical trust. It means you trust no matter what the situation is. I want you to go back to a time, most of you, because I know at least one person never had this experience, and I'm not going to out them. I'm going to let you guys be sleuths and talk about it amongst yourself from here. Go back to when you were learning to ride a bicycle. Do you really know what was happening? Do you know the radical trust you need to let your dad, who doesn't know how strong he is, get behind you and wind up without the training wheels and send you careening down a sidewalk? Do you know how much radical trust you have to have? You've never done this before. And you know what they have the audacity to tell you? Just pedal faster. Totally counterintuitive. If you don't have radical trust in your parents, I know you're screaming and crying all the way, even before you hit the car on the side of the road. Speaking from experience, I hit the car. It's me. I did. You need receptivity. Receptivity is childlike. It means you can be told something and you will believe it because you trust the source, not constantly questioning with suspicion, right? Look, I know we're not in Bible hour and I hope their parents aren't mad at me, but kids, if your mom tells you your face is gonna get stuck like that, it ain't gonna get stuck like that. I know you believe them. You probably look really ugly, and no parent wants ugly kids, so stop making the face. But your face won't get stuck like that. One more thing. The seed is not going to grow into a watermelon in your stomach, okay? That's over. And I don't know how long gum stays in your digestive system if you swallow it, but it's a bad idea. We don't know what it does. But as a kid, the receptivity, I remember sitting on a road trip with Mom, and she told me, if you swallow the watermelon seed, it's going to grow into a whole watermelon in your stomach, riding down the road, looking out the window like, this is my last day on earth. This is over. Trying not to drink water because I thought it would fertilize the seed and cause it to grow faster. See, Mom, you're dehydrating your kids. You got to stop that. Give them a Gatorade. To be childlike is radical trust and receptivity. It is a freedom from the games we play to get status. There is no status in a childlike spirit. They just are. You know what's best about a kid? Kids, as soon as they can talk, will run into the room, and it's filled with people having conversations and doing things, and they'll just start talking, expecting that everyone is listening and cares about what they're talking about. They could have found a rock that they thought looked cool. They could have found a stick. They could have grabbed a scorpion. They didn't know what it was, and they come in the house like, hey, everybody, look at something. And they just are happy because they know when they come into the presence of their Father, they care what they're talking about. There's no status there. There's no warring over place. And the fourth thing that it takes to be childlike is a willingness to be formed. When Dad says, nah, man, when you're standing in the box, left foot a little in front of the right foot, weight in your hip, right? You're listening. You want to replicate that. You want to be you're wanting to be exactly like what you're seeing. You see, Christian maturity looks like growing back into childlike dependence on the grace of God. It is a return to the time when you believed that Dad could do no wrong, and you depended on him for everything. You imitated him. You wanted to do what he did. You just wanted him to look at you and smile and nod and say, good job. It is a return to seeing a father figure like a superhero before you tore him down in your teenage years. Except this father doesn't falter. This father doesn't have flaws. This father will never forsake you. You'll never look back at the God that you're trying to imitate and be formed by and trusting radically and say, man, I wish I wouldn't have listened to him. He didn't know what he was talking about. Far to the contrary, in every instance and chapter of your life, you'll look back and say, God knew better than I did. I wish I would have listened to him. And so I want you to just inhabit a moment of honesty and introspection with me for a minute as a church. I want you to ask yourself, what motivates you on a daily basis at home, in work, in your relationships, or even here in church? What is underneath the questions that you ask, the actions that you take, the frustrations that you feel, the anxieties that you have? Childishness demands attention and recognition. Are you seeking that? But childlikeness continues to trust even without it. See, childishness seeks control, but childlikeness surrenders to a greater trusted guidance. Childishness is obsessed with greatness, but childlikeness is content to be safe in the arms of grace. Childishness refuses correction, needing to be perpetually self-justified, but childlikeness not only receives, but seeks formation. Are you at a place in your life, church, where you are willing to receive formation and correction? Or have you done your dime, you've paid your dues, and nobody has permission to tell you when you've stepped out of line? Are you immediately defensive? Childishness has a spirit of entitlement. Childlikeness has a spirit of dependence. In an honest account, which of those best describes your posture in your relationship with your family? Which of these best describes your posture in your relationship with your church friends? Which of these best describes your posture with the people you inhabit space with at work or just in the world? And let me help you reveal this. Ask yourself these questions. What makes you feel safe? Are you safe because you're in control of a situation and you get to say what goes and how it goes and when it goes and why it goes? Or are you safe because you know God's in control of every situation, and no matter how it goes, when it goes, why it goes, he's got you? When do you get angry? In the absence of which of these do you become frustrated or mad at somebody? Because what you get mad at and frustrated at will tell you what posture you have. It will tell you where you are, who you are, and what you are. So I have something that is a little bit of a paradox for you today. Something that's a little bit ironic. Because as we kind of get ready to land the plane this morning, I know the thought of Benjamin buttoning yourself back into a childlike perspective seems a little counterintuitive. And I will admit it's certainly subversive. It feels counterintuitive because haven't you spent your entire life trying to grow up into independence? I mean, if you spend your entire life trying to grow up and be mature by growing up, when Jesus says grow down, doesn't that create a little bit of cognitive dissonance for you? Doesn't that create a little bit of a challenge for you? I mean, there's nothing, if there's anything we idolize here in America, it's independence. That's another story for another time, but think about life for a moment with me. Look, from the time you're very small, we look up at the world around us in awe, and those are the moments of innocence. Those are the beautiful times. But it's not long after that, and for a number of reasons, included in which the question that we keep getting, what do you want to be when you grow up? That we abandon the childlike awe, and we abandon the childlike nature, and we immediately start thinking about what I'm going to do, who I'm going to be, what I want out of this life. And we set our sights on this elusive day in the future when we will be big and strong like Dad was big and strong. Where we'll be accomplished like making good money and having a good career. Where we'll be well-liked and popular and loved and revered and respected and successful. And you know this, every 5-year-old wants to be 10. Every 10-year-old will tell you they're almost a teenager. Every 13-year-old will tell you, I'm almost 16. Calm down, calm down. And every 16-year-old will tell you, I'm 18 months away from being 18. You're 16. Enjoy the sweetness while it lasts. Ain't nothing good at 18. And every 20-year-old is almost 21. And at 25, everybody's having fun. But then one day at 32, you woke up with a strained neck because you slept the wrong way, and you start looking in the rearview mirror. We do this our entire life. We're constantly trying to push forward and try to grow up. And the more we try to grow, the more we stay the same. Because at every juncture, we're just asserting at a new level of complexity, I can do it. Let me do it. I'm strong now. I know better now. I got this. I want to be the one. I'll take care of it. I will fix it. And anyone who tells you that you can't becomes the enemy. Anyone who suggests that you're looking at this a little bit wrong is the enemy. Anyone who suggests that that's not how you be the greatest and live the greatest life is your enemy, and they don't deserve your time. After all, if they're not making you happy, then get them out of your life. That's what our culture says. When Jesus says become like little children, it conjures up for us feelings of being restrained, feelings of needing permission. Nothing felt better than when you could just leave the house and drive somewhere without telling anybody where you needed to go. We long for that day. I can't wait until I'm out of this house. And then you end up at another house married to somebody and you realize you're going to spend the rest of your life asking for permission. Life is funny, baby. And if it's a good one, you realize actually it's really nice for someone to care about where I'm going to be because they want to make sure I'm okay. And then you become dependent on that. And you realize that having that kind of a trust is actually a good thing. When Jesus says this, it conjures up all these feelings that we've been desperately trying to escape since we were in kindergarten. And I want to ask the hard question this morning, Jesus, how is this the answer? Because in our resistance and assertion of our own ability to stand, and all of these things that we feel like we need to do to be mature adults, if we keep pursuing them, all it will do is make us immature disciples. Trying not to be childlike is actually what makes us childish. If you don't believe me, you want to know how you know that someone's still a child? If they try to convince you that they're not. The moment someone says, I'm a grown man, you know that's a fragile man. The moment someone says, I'm not a little kid anymore, you know they are. Because whatever we have to defend is what's deep inside of our hearts. So I want you to hang with me really quick. Think about the warning signs that you recognize when we have childish ways of seeing the world. Churchy example, Dunning-Kruger one more time. The way that you can tell that someone doesn't know a lot about something is when they think they know a lot about something. Bible hour, folks, let me talk to you. You're going to go back to Bible hour when school starts up, and someone is going to walk in really excited. And if you're in like the 5th or 6th grade or 7th grade, this is when it starts to happen. If they walk in and they say, "Today, kids," you're already mad. I'm not a kid. I'm not a kid anymore. I'm grown, man. I'm a teenager. We're going to talk about Jonah and the whale. Didn't we just do like the VBS thing with like the water on the stage and all that? Are we done? Scuba Steve and all that. I know this story. Today we're going to talk about David and Goliath. I know this story. I get it. Smooth stone, slingshot, wha-bam, decapped him, unalive. Story over. But I just want to say to you, do you really know that story like you think you do? See, anybody that has taken another look at that story in adulthood realizes, oh my goodness, there's a lot going on here that I couldn't see and couldn't know from my vantage point. And so the clue that you don't really know is thinking that you know. You don't know what you don't know. And the overconfident assertion that you know is the clue that you know very little. It's the proof that if you think you're too grown for this story, you're not too grown, you're actually just too childish to recognize what you're missing. And this is Jesus' message to us about the kingdom today. Jesus says, unless you become like little children, you will not enter the kingdom, because unless you give up your assertion that you already know what you need to know, your assertion that you know best and everyone else are idiots, will live this childish perspective over and over again in every area of your life. You'll keep having the same fights, the same arguments, always learning but never coming to the knowledge of the truth. And worse, Jesus says, you will not enter the kingdom. Because the irony is that the freedom we try to capture by forcefully growing up and gripping life in our childishness comes freely to those who walk with Jesus in childlikeness. How many of you have said at some point, I wish I could go back? Wish I could go back. Oh, y'all never made a mistake? Okay. Y'all are perfectly happy with the way this whole planned out. Okay. If you've ever said that, though, I wish I could go back and maybe change a mistake. If I could go back and do it all over again, I would make some changes. I would check you on that, and I would say, that's a nice thought. But the reality is, everything that you have messed up so far along the way is part of who you are today. You had to learn that lesson, sometimes brutally hard ones that you wouldn't have learned any other way. Even if you knew better then, you didn't believe it enough not to make the wrong call. So if you went back knowing what you know now, you know you don't get your redemption without the fall. But you might have also said something like this: I wish I could go back to when I was a kid. Life was so much simpler then. You feel like that? Here's the secret. When Jesus says, become like little children, he is telling us that if you trust him, and if you allow yourself to fully be dependent on him, it's not that you didn't know how good you had it back then. It's that you don't realize how good you're supposed to have it right now. I want to say that again. If you become childlike in full trust and dependence on Jesus, he's not saying, yeah, you didn't know how good you had it back when you were a kid. He is saying, you don't realize how good I want you to have it right now. Because being childlike, not being childish, means Jesus is calling you to do the thing you wished you always could do. He's calling you to go back to your childhood and being carefree. But he's telling you to go back to that state of mind while being able to keep all of your experience and wisdom that you gained along the way and possess right now. Jesus is saying you can recapture the awe of the world around you, the complete dependence on your superhero dad that has never failed to come through and never let you down. You can bring all your passions and your interests, no matter how trivial they seem, to your Father in excitement, and you can know that he's going to smile back at you with love and adoration. You can go back to that place, but this time you can benefit from the wisdom and experience, because your selfishness, you know now, doesn't serve you or anyone around you. Jesus is saying, become like little children, because in Christ, in the kingdom, you're a child again. But this time, you share your toys and you share your food generously, because you know that there is more than enough bread in the house of the Lord for everybody. You don't have to clutch it. It's like you're a kid again, but you realize that what you have doesn't actually belong to you. So you can share it freely because you know your dad has enough. And you no longer say thank you because he told you to. You say thank you because you now realize everything that he continues to give you. Now, instead of bringing dad the awful macaroni artwork you made out of pure love, every mom has one of those in the attic somewhere. It's on our Christmas tree every year. Instead of bringing that to dad, you can bring your career to him. And he looks back at you the same way that mom and dad do when you bring them that stick figure that's supposed to look like them. And if they were struggling with their self-image, they're really struggling now. I know it's a stick figure, but is that how I really look? Is that how my hair is shaped today? You can bring him your relationship. You can bring him all of your interests and everything that you pour your heart into. You can do all this knowing that he still looks at you like a proud dad who's getting that first stick figure from his son. You see, becoming a little child in the kingdom is the most freeing expression of you that exists. Because becoming like a child is all your gifts, all your wisdom, all your experience, but without the immaturity, without the selfishness, and without the shame. You see, when Jesus tells the disciples they must become like little children to enter the kingdom, he is not telling them that they need to shrink their assumptions and their expectations of what the kingdom is going to be like. He is telling them that their current assumptions and expectations and perspective of what it means to be in the kingdom is far too small. If you think the kingdom is about you being good enough to get around your shame in the presence of God, you are thinking too small. If you think the kingdom is about you being better than the next man, your thinking is too small. If you think the kingdom is about proving yourself to God so that someday he will look at your deeds and say, I love you, your thinking is too small. King Jesus means to give you more than the affirmation that you're better than the person beside you, that you're the greatest. King Jesus means to give you everything that you thought you lost in your childhood. That's why Jesus says you must be born again. You must become like little children because he wants to give it all back. He wants you to be innocent. He wants you to be in awe. He wants you to be able to look at the stars and feel wonder. He wants you to feel unconditional love and acceptance. He wants you to know that there's more than enough resources for you and everybody. He wants you to have direction that will take you where you're actually supposed to go. And he wants you to have a purpose in this life that does not disappear when you die. All while still letting you keep everything you've gained on the other side. Because we don't take anything with us to heaven except the people we become and the people that we bring with us. And it takes a child to know that's the most important thing. I don't know about you, but the invitation to become like little children is the greatest gift that the Father could give you and I, his children, on Father's Day and every day. There's a reason why the Bible says we are all God's children, but we spend most of our lives trying to prove to God and ourselves that we are adults. Today, God is calling you, inviting you, welcoming you to go back to a simpler time. To go back to a time when all you needed was to know that your Father was there and everything was going to be fine. He's inviting you to a second childhood. I want to read a little something that I wrote after I experienced something a few weeks ago as we closed this morning. It's kind of funny, but I think it sums up everything we're talking about today. Several weeks ago, I was leaving Wally World. That's what I call Walmart, by the way. I call Target Le Target. I don't know why. It's kind of French to me. I don't know. Leaving Wally World, and I overheard a child unloading from the family vehicle, a family of 5. It was a van. It took me back to my childhood because we had the Pontiac Montana. Passed my driver's test in that van, parallel parked it and everything. I'll tell you. But I heard this kid get out with the family of 5 and he said, I'm going to get what I want with my money. And if I run out, then I'm going to use your money. And he points at his dad. I try not to do this because I know somebody, especially in Texas, might get offended, and well, you know how that goes. I laughed out loud. I just started laughing. And I laughed out loud and I gave the parents a nod while they're trying to wrangle their entire brood there. There's something about the tone of this kid that struck me as completely hilarious, just like it struck you. This is a moment that all parents probably in the room can identify with and probably sympathize with. The parents laughed back and maybe laughed together. There's something about the kids' like matter-of-fact not demanding, yet somehow fully expectant view of the world, that I could almost hear my parents like shoot through like a quantum mirror right from the past to the present and yell in my face in Walmart, "Do you think money grows on trees?" They didn't get that close to me. I'm not trying to paint that picture, but that's what it feels like when you're like this tall. As I drove away amused by that little window into that family's life, something else occurred to me. I got this sneaky suspicion that I was actually like that little kid. Even to this day. We go through life from birth to baptism, and we should, like little children, have an understanding of our full dependence on God in life. Our full dependence is on Jesus for our righteousness before him, but we, like every child, have this inherent instinct to flex our independent streak. We begin strategizing how we're going to be better and how we're going to do this thing right, and we're going to live a respectable life, and we're going to do right by people and be a good Christian, and thus we will earn a heavenly home. And at some point, as is all too common to us all, we experience the cruel reality that not only do we not have it all figured out, but we fall woefully short of the standard of that cross. We have that moment where we realize that this New Age axiom, God won't give you more than you can handle, is, as it turns out, high fiction. We reach the point where we say, like the little kid in the parking lot, "I'm out of money, God. Can I use yours?" I'm going to translate that into some grown-up language for you. God, I've tried to be good. I've tried to live a good life. I've tried to be a good Christian. I've tried to do right by people, and yet I've really messed up my marriage. I've really messed up. I've lost my job. I've gotten in debt beyond what I can manage. I've ruined friendships and relationships. I actually haven't shared any meaningful thing about you with anyone around me in so long I can't even remember the time I said Jesus in public. I don't know about what to do about the person at work that's slandering me. Someone close to me, God, is suffering and it's not fair. I'm suffering and it's not fair. Someone I love is sick. I get so angry so quickly with my spouse. I push everyone away who tries to help, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy of me telling myself that I'm not worth anything. God, I'm out of money. God, can I have some of yours? Can you fix this for me? Will you save me from this, God? Isn't it strange to realize that the kid in the parking lot's exclamation that he was going to take care of himself unless things got difficult is so closely related to the way we often approach this life as God's children? We find ourselves saying to God, "God, I'm going to be good unless I'm not, and then I hope you have enough goodness for me." The truth is that this kid in the parking lot could never have gotten himself to the store without his father, because he wouldn't even have a van to ride in. He wouldn't have clothes to put on. He wouldn't have food to eat. And he didn't realize somehow how much he already needed his father to do for him just to get there. And you are the same. I am the same. The truth is, I'm never going to be able to get myself into the kingdom of heaven without my Father. I don't have a way to get there except through the blood of Jesus. I don't have righteousness of my own to dress myself in. I don't have life without the bread that came down from heaven. How foolish for me to ever say and approach life trying to be good enough to get myself where I need to go, because I am broken every sense, but Jesus paid the price for me. So I'm going to try out this new declaration, and I invite you to share it with me too. God, everything I have is from you. I know you will take care of what I need. Nothing I can do will get me home. You are the only way. So thank you. See, it turns out becoming like a little child means realizing that you're going to use God's money, not because you're out of yours, but because it was all God's money to begin with. You're going to rely on God's goodness because he is the source of goodness, not me. You're going to depend on God's grace and extend God's grace because he paid the price for it, not you, not anything you could ever do. And becoming like a little child means looking up to God and realizing that he built, bought, and drove the van that you rode into this store called life. And no matter what you manage to buy while you're here, some of you might try to steal something without getting caught all the way. No matter what you accrue, no matter what you accomplish or do here in this life, your Father's ride is the only way you're going to get back home. So, unless you become like little children, you will not see the kingdom of God. Become a little child and enter the kingdom of your Father's delight. That'll be the happiest Father's Day you can give him. We're going to sing a song that will serve as an invitation, and if we can serve you in taking a step towards Jesus, we would love to assist you. We'll see you at the front here. You can pray with one of our shepherds in the back. But in either case, please come as we stand and sing.